What's up, guys? Well, with the release of The Batman, we now have 6 films to talk about in Matt Reeves' filmography. Matt Reeves is easily one of my favorite working directors today, and as heartbroken as I was that the Ben Affleck project was getting dismantled piece by piece years ago, when they announced that Matt Reeves is going to be taking over The Batman, he might be one of 2 or 3 names in Hollywood that instantly would make me forget about all that heartbreak. I love the guy. And so with 6 movies here, very different genres, very different approaches, it's going to be a pretty interesting little ranking. So starting off with number 6, and honestly this is the only movie on this list that isn't great, and that's The Pallbearer. I had never heard of this movie before. It was the only movie that I had to watch for this ranking, and I did not enjoy this one bit. Maybe there's somebody out there that this would work for, but this was hard to even finish. Everybody's got a bad day at the office. Luckily, Matt Reeves got his bad day out first. This is a movie that I don't know if it's trying to be a comedy. I don't know if it's trying to be a romance. I don't know if it's trying to be a drama. And the emotions you're supposed to get for any of those 3 genres, I wasn't getting any of them. You have David Schwimmer here, which that's one knock against the movie. I'm not a fan of Friends. Most of the people in Friends I don't think are very funny. He is one of them. And so you get this premise to where he is asked to be a pallbearer and to give a eulogy for a guy that he does not remember from high school. And so he gets stuck into this plot where he has to play like he remembers this guy when they're supposed to be like best buddies. And so that starts off as a premise for maybe what's going to be a funny little situational comedy. Doesn't quite go there. It starts to get kind of dark and uncomfortable with the drama. Then there's this romance angle brought in with Gwyneth Paltrow, his like long lost love from high school that he's like spying on with binoculars and shit. It's a movie that I honestly did not enjoy one bit of. So maybe there's some fans of it out there, but if you haven't seen it, this one, just flat out skip it. Now with that out of the way, we could talk about nothing but awesome movies from here on out. Number 5 is going to be Cloverfield. Now, Cloverfield is not a movie that I would say that I love, but for a genre that I'm really not a big fan of, or subgenre I should say, of found footage, this is one of a few that I can actually watch and be entertained by. I saw this in the theaters. The trailer, I remember the trailer was almost better than the movie. It comes onto the theater and all you see is this found footage party where all of a sudden the city blows up in the background and you see the Statue of Liberty's head get thrown, and then it just cuts off. You don't get a name for the movie, you don't get a release date. It was the weirdest thing I had ever seen at the time. And so it caused a lot of buzz. You go to see the movie and it's a very interesting take on the found footage genre. It's a Godzilla movie through found footage. I like the design of the monster. I like most of the cast here. I think that the special effects and everything are done really well, especially through that found footage grain of that little handheld camera. And it's a movie that's always caused a lot of questions to the point where it kind of spawned a little franchise, even though the movies really don't have much to do with each other. But I would like to go back and get some more answers and revisit this monster in Cloverfield eventually. It's a pretty fun time. Number 4 is going to be Let Me In. Now, Brian Lomax is going to have a conniption when I say that I still have not watched Let the Right One In. So this is a remake to, I want to say, a Swedish movie, and Let Me In is the Americanized remake of it. Now, as much as I despise shot-for-shot remakes, foreign language shot-for-shot remakes are mostly shot-for-shot, make a lot more sense to me, because though I have certainly warmed up to it over the years, there is a lot of people out there that just do not want to watch foreign films. They don't like watching a film with subtitles, and for most of my life I was that person, so I totally sympathize with that argument. And so I get it. This is one of those things that I can kind of support. So Let Me In is the only version of this story that I have seen, but it's fucking awesome. It's a fantastic story. I love the actors in it, and it's just a really dark, romantic vampire movie with kids. And so there's a lot of things that's just very unique about it. I love the whole angle with Richard Jenkins as this old man and the mystery of why he's taking care of this little girl and the ultimate reveal of that. You get Cody Smith-McPhee in a role that's really good, and where he really sympathize and just feel terrible for this kid because of the bullies that he has at school, and Abby's really the only person that he really gets any kind of connection with, and the whole thing is just darkly tragic. But it's, for a vampire movie, for especially at the time, right before or right around when Twilight and everything was coming out, we had seen vampire movies done to death in a million different ways. This one really does take a very different approach to it that I have always appreciated. It's gorgeously shot, and taking away the criticism that it's been done before, I think it's a brilliant vampire film. Number 3 is going to be War for the Planet of the Apes. Now, the Planet of the Apes reboot trilogy might be the best trilogy that we have gotten in a very long time. One of the best trilogies that we've ever gotten, period, for sure. I remember when Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out, and I was like, wow, that's going to be an absolute train wreck. And then you watch the film and it was like, oh my God, that had no right being as good as it was. And when Matt Reeves took over for the 2 sequels, the franchise only got better, which seemed like an impossible feat. Now, War was the concluding chapter, and as much as this does all of the things that I loved Dawn for to a certain extent, the only reason why this one is not above Dawn, is not my number 1, is because this is a very dark chapter. It's a very depressing chapter. It's not nearly as rewatchable as the first 2 films, in my opinion. The special effects, the motion capture performance, the drama, all of that, fucking top-notch, incredible. It's a brilliant movie, but it's definitely one that is taxing as far as the themes and as far as the dark storyline that we take Caesar on, but it does wrap up his storyline and his character in a very satisfying way. It is a damn good concluding chapter to this trilogy. Number 2 is going to be The Batman. Now, over time, maybe this will overtake as number 1. I kind of have my doubts just because of how much I just truly adore the number 1 on this list, but The Batman to me is the Batman movie that I have been waiting for a very long time. I've seen the movie twice in theaters. I still have the desire to go see it a 3rd time. I don't know if I will or not, but I still want to see it a 3rd time, and I have not had that desire in decades. And this is a movie that I love the approach to the character. I love the way they approach the villains. I love the way that they fill out this lived-in version of Gotham, the tone and the approach to the storyline with this very detective noir murder mystery style thing is awesome. Seeing the detective Batman, I've talked about Batman ad nauseum for the past couple of weeks, so if you want to know all of my thoughts on this movie, I got a spoiler review, spoiler-free review, a bunch of rankings. I'm sure I've linked it at some point in this video. I love this movie. I thought it was a fucking masterpiece, and I do not hand out that title very often, and I do not take that lightly. But number 1 for me is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Now, like I had just said a few minutes ago, when Rise came out and I saw how awesome that movie was, when the sequel was getting pitched and was getting to the point where it was about to come out, most of us, if not all of us, were just like, okay, if it's just almost as good as Rise, that's gonna be fine. If it can just get almost as good as that first movie. And Dawn laps how amazing that first movie was. It takes everything that was so good and such a genuine surprise with how they approached that story and that character in Rise, and they just took it to the next level. This is one of the most genuinely deep, genuinely emotional, and just rich, thematically rich blockbusters that I've ever seen. I mean, it's got all the spectacle, it's got all the money on screen, it's got all the action sequences and the bullets and the explosions that you go there for, but there's so much more to it. So much more character depth, so much more drama between the characters, mainly between Caesar and Koba. A really interesting way that they approached the little rivalry between the humans and the apes, to the point where a lesser filmmaker and a lesser script would have easily just framed the humans as bad guys, because that's very easy to do. But they made it to where you sympathize with both sides. You understand why the apes don't trust the humans. Even Koba, the eventual villain of the movie, you understand why he cannot accept working with the humans. When you get into the human side, characters like Gary Oldman very easily could have been written as this mustache-twirling villain that wants to kill all the apes, but you understand. You understand why he doesn't want the apes to prevail. You understand why he is concerned about the future of humanity, and just, it's a brilliant, flawless movie. This is easily in, I don't even remember where I put it. It's definitely in my top 20 films of all time, but it's a movie that I absolutely treasure. I genuinely think this movie set a new standard for what a blockbuster can be, and I honestly don't think a movie has quite matched what this has done yet. So what do you guys think? What is your ranking of all 6 of Matt Reeves' films? I know he did a segment to a movie in, what, like 1994? That wasn't a movie directed by him. Somebody's gonna ask where that is down below. Look, there's at least one of you down there. But for the 6 that I talked about, what are your thoughts on these 6 movies? If there's somebody out there that's got the pallbearer at number 1, please explain. Thank you guys for watching. Like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you are a fan of this video. I've done some other director rankings. I'll put a link up here for those. Of course, if you're a Batman fan, like I said, there's a ton of content that I've just pumped out over the past couple of weeks that you will enjoy. And we're about to get right back into our Wes Craven review series. So if you're a fan of any of that, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of it. Thank you guys for watching, as always. And remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.